They weren't searching for proof of the Bible. They were just trying to stabilize an ancient church before the walls gave way. But the moment archaeologists dug beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, everything changed. What they uncovered wasn't legend, symbolism, or religious tradition. It was physical evidence that matches the gospel accounts with unnerving accuracy. Tombs carved in abandoned stone, soil rich enough to confirm a first-century garden, geological features exactly where the Bible places them. And now, the loudest skeptics, the ones who mocked Golgotha as myth, are the ones with no explanation. They didn't go in expecting history to speak. The goal was simple: reinforce the aging structure of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre before time and erosion caused permanent damage. Engineers and archaeologists were only meant to secure the foundations, but the deeper they went, the less ordinary the mission became. Beneath centuries of marble and layered renovations, the ground revealed something untouched, evidence sealed away since the time of Jesus. What began as construction quickly turned into investigation. Discoveries started lining up with ancient scripture in ways no one predicted. And suddenly, Golgotha wasn't a debate, a metaphor, or a church tradition. It was a location delivering facts, the kind of facts that force skeptics to go silent before they even know how to argue. To understand why these discoveries matter, you have to go back nearly 1,700 years. In 312 AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine embraced Christianity after claiming a vision led him to victory. His mother, Helena, soon traveled to Jerusalem with one mission: identify the sacred places tied to the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Guided by local traditions and early Christian accounts, she pointed to a rocky hill just outside the ancient city walls and declared it the site of the crucifixion, Golgotha, the place of the skull. She ordered a church to be built over it, never imagining that future generations would question her choice. What she couldn't have known is that the land beneath that church would one day testify for itself and silence doubt without saying a word. Long before Helena arrived, the land itself had a different purpose. Archaeologists confirmed that the area beneath the church was once an active limestone quarry during the Second Temple period. Workers carved stone from its walls and left jagged cuts behind. But by the 1st century, the quarry was abandoned, leaving exposed rock faces and uneven terrain. That kind of landscape was exactly where the Romans preferred to carry out executions, outside the city walls, highly visible and close to major travel routes. The Gospels describe Jesus being crucified in such a place, and now the geology backs it up. For years, skeptics argued that the biblical writers invented the setting, but stone doesn't lie, and this stone matches the story more accurately than any theory ever proposed against it. But what came after the quarry is what truly stunned researchers. When soil samples were pulled from beneath the church floor, experts didn't find dust or debris left from ancient construction. They found life. The earth was rich, dark, and fertile, unlike the barren remains of a work site. Tests revealed traces of olive trees and grapevines, the same plants cultivated in 1st century Jerusalem. That means the abandoned quarry didn't stay empty. It was transformed into a garden during the exact period the Gospels describe. And suddenly, a verse many dismissed as poetic imagery became literal. In the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, John 19:41. Critics once claimed that detail was symbolic, but now the soil itself says otherwise, and it says it with evidence no one saw coming. The garden wasn't the only confirmation buried beneath the stone. As archaeologists continued clearing debris, they uncovered tombs carved directly into the rock, exactly the kind used by wealthy Jewish families in the 1st century. These weren't random burial pits or later additions. They were original to the era and chiseled into the same quarry walls that once towered over the site. One tomb, long associated by tradition with Joseph of Arimathea, rests beneath the structure now called the edicule. When layers of marble were carefully removed during restoration, a circular stone base emerged, matching ancient descriptions of Constantine's original church built above the burial site. The setting wasn't guessed, it was preserved, and every new reveal pushed the biblical narrative further out of the realm of legend and into verifiable history.
What makes this even harder for skeptics to dismiss is how these discoveries weren't part of a quest to prove anything. Workers were focused on stabilizing weakened foundations, not hunting for biblical clues. Yet every layer they removed exposed something older, deeper, and strangely precise. Fragments of chisel marks in the quarry walls, soil rich enough to grow vines, tomb entrances sealed and forgotten under centuries of construction. Nothing was staged, theorized, or arranged to fit scripture. It was simply uncovered. And that's what unsettles critics the most. When evidence appears without agenda, it carries more weight than any argument. The ground wasn't trying to defend the Bible. It was just waiting to be opened. And once it was, the past started confirming details people claimed were impossible to verify. One of the scholars involved in the restoration, Professor Francesco Stasola, admitted he wasn't prepared for what they found. He described watching workers pull up soil that was still fertile enough to plant in, not dry powder, not construction fill, real garden earth sealed beneath stone and marble for nearly 2,000 years. He called it good gardening soil, the kind you would expect in a cultivated space, not an abandoned quarry. And that single detail struck a chord, because only one ancient source ever mentioned a garden at the place of crucifixion, the Gospel of John. For generations, critics said the writers added that for symbolism, but no symbol leaves behind grapevine residue and olive pollen. The discovery didn't defend Scripture with words. It confirmed it with dirt.
As findings spread through academic circles, the reaction was anything but quiet. Archaeologists who didn't believe in the Bible suddenly had to confront evidence that aligned too precisely to dismiss. The quarry matched the time period. The garden soil matched the gospel account. The tombs fit the burial practices of the wealthy. Even the location, outside the ancient city walls, matched Roman execution customs described in Scripture. Atheists who once waved off Golgotha as legend were left in a corner they didn't expect. They could argue against miracles. They could reject resurrection claims. But they couldn't explain why every physical layer of the site echoed the very details they said were made up. And the more they tried to ignore it, the louder the stones seemed to speak. What makes this moment historic isn't just the archaeology, it's the prophecy it tangibly supports. Long before Jesus walked those streets, Isaiah wrote that the Messiah would be with the wicked in death, yet buried with the rich. That seemed contradictory until the gospel accounts described Jesus crucified among criminals, but laid in a rich man's unused tomb. Now, the physical setting that made that prophecy possible has surfaced. A former quarry turned garden, carved tombs belonging to the wealthy, and a burial space untouched before that moment. For years, this was dismissed as theological storytelling. But when rock, soil, and architecture align with Scripture better than speculation ever has, doubt stops sounding intellectual and starts looking desperate. The question now isn't whether the Bible described a real place. The question is what else lies beneath the surface that no one has touched yet. If a garden, a tomb, and the remains of a quarry could stay hidden under one of the most visited sites in the world, what other truths are still buried in Jerusalem's stone? Archaeologists are already planning deeper surveys beneath nearby areas once connected to the crucifixion site. And if the next discovery matches the next verse the way this one did, the argument over Golgotha won't just be shaken, it will be over. Because the earth isn't finished speaking. And the moment the next layer breaks open, the silence of the skeptics may not return.